we'll be FaceTime or something, or talking on the phone. I'll grab that kid and just keep rubbing that ring in his face.
Work ethic's obviously very important as well.
When it's all said and done, I want 5 quarterbacks.
Recruiting, most important part of the game.
Do you want me to call you Mike or Magic? Because, there's the whole Magic. Yeah, I don't want to go there.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. I'm your host, Magic, and tonight our guest is supposed to be olemissman19. He had some trouble in the previous week getting on. Hopefully he can make the way into the studio tonight. So in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and discuss vision. Tried to do some of that 2 weeks ago, and there were some technical difficulties. So hopefully we can get all those ironed out and make sense of all this for you. So let's go ahead and explain a little about vision. What a vision is essentially is how many recruits you can see at your particular level. Now, I preface that statement by this. At D1A, you can see every recruit that is available, regardless of your record, regardless of your prestige, your coaching prestige, or your school's prestige. Those players are available all the way down to D3. You can see from the best to the worst, and there's a reason for that. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But for the other divisions, your D3, D2, and D1 AA, vision is calculated on a formula that is it's almost as secret as Kentucky Fried Chicken formula, I guess. There's been some hints about it and some discussions with various people at What If Sports, and what I have put together is something that's been working for me as far as kind of helping determine what my vision is for many years. So I'm going to share that with you here tonight. But primarily, vision is essentially who that particular school can see. So let's go ahead and pop that up. Hopefully I'll be able to keep talking while that's up. Let's see here. All right. I don't know if y'all can read that or not, so I'll go ahead and read it for you. The vision value formula is based on multipliers from wins per season, which generates a win value. And this win value is calculated based on most recent season wins being multiplied by 4, wins from 2 years ago multiplied by 3, and those wins from 3 years ago multiplied by 2, and those wins from 4 years ago being multiplied by 1. So that actually puts a little more weight on recency. These 4 win values are added to arrive at the vision value. So there's some terms there that we'll go into. The max vision value is 190. I was not privy to the percentage factor or the amount of additional recruits a school can see based on vision values. So the information we're going to share is basically the information we've been able to derive as players, given minimal input from the What If Sports staff. I mentioned vision value formula, and we're going to go into that in great detail with the calculation of how many weighted points you get depending on what year those wins came. And the win value is the total that gets added up to arrive at your actual vision. So the example to look at are 2 schools in their respective rosters with their win totals over a 4-year span. So we'll start by looking at 2 schools, Benton and Charlotte, going through their season 161 all the way back to season 158. And hopefully you can see it, but 158 was 4 years ago. So those wins get a weighted value of 1, followed by the next year 2, the next year 3, and the most recent year 4. And as you can see, those schools totals are right there with Benton wins and their win value and Charlotte's wins and their win value. So Benton has a vision value. Now remember, that vision value is the sum of the win value. So in Benton's column, for instance, you see the 76, the 54, 38, and 14. That gives you a 182, while Charlotte's vision value is a 158. So Benton would see more recruits than Charlotte, probably not a whole lot more, given that there's only about a 24-point value difference. But as you can see by this calculation and this formula, a team that generically or generally wins just 4 or 5 games a year, would have a much lower vision value and therefore not be able to see as many recruits as Benton or Charlotte, for that matter, in this case. So given that information, let's look at the following year. So a year has gone by, and now we can see the seasons have updated 162 through 159, and you can tell that the 158 has dropped off, and I do believe we have Ole Miss Man. There's Shane. How are you? Can you hear me, Shane?
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
All right. I'm just going over some information on the values for calculating vision, and he dropped off. I'm telling you, that guy's having a difficult time. Oh, he's back. Let's see. He's like popcorn. He's here. He's gone. All right. I'm just briefly going over some vision value stuff about through with this, and then we'll catch up with you if that's all right with you, Shane.
Absolutely.
As I was saying, the season multipliers, you can see the update from 162 down to 159. The multipliers remain the same, but the win totals now have shifted as the new seasons have been added and 150 off. So what that results is Benton now has a vision value of 164 and Charlotte has a vision value of 160 or 172. So Benton would see fewer recruits. Granted, it probably won't be a whole lot. We're talking, I'm going to just venture a guess of maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 per position that Benton would lose sight of, and Charlotte would see more recruits this particular season. Now, again, why is that important? Well, in what if sports, you can't recruit those players you can't see. You can try. They'll reject your campus visits. They'll reject your home visits. But no matter what you do, no matter what your record, no matter how good, you're not going to be able to sign those recruits that you cannot see. So if you're at a D2 school and just for the heck of it, you decide you want to recruit some D1 AA players, if you put the selector on D1 AA and search, you'll be able to see them, but that's not the same seeing them as what we use for vision value. Seeing the recruits available to you is in reference to only those recruits at your respective division, Division 3, Division 2, and Division 1 AA. So having said all that, it is important to understand that vision is important for recruiting the players because you can only recruit those players you can see. Now, just because you can see more players doesn't mean you can actually sign more players. That comes into prestige factor. And that prestige factor is made up of the coaching record, the school's particular record, what conference they're in, when you get up to some of the higher divisions. So there's a lot more that goes into it. This is just one aspect of recruiting, and it tends to be the one that gets asked about the most on the forums, and that is vision value. Hopefully we haven't confused you too much. If we have, forgive me. Just drop me a site mail or contact me on the forum, and hopefully we'll get you squared away. But anyway, we have got Shane in the house. Welcome back, Shane.
Hey, Magic, how you doing? Glad to have you back again.
Well, it's been about 2 months, maybe something like that, since you were last on.
Yeah, it's been about 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Time flies, doesn't it?
I know, time flies. Absolutely.
Well, since that time, let's look at your current situation here. Let's see.
I have been doing terrible. People have really. Listen, I didn't know how popular the show really was. People really stepped up and accepted my challenge. I mean, I thought I was a great recruiter. I mean, I have been poached. I've been stolen. I've been targeted. I mean, I've had love mail, hate mail. I mean, I have just been really shocked of the response. And it has really been outstanding. I mean, I've had a good time. I'm ready for the challenge now. I didn't know everybody was coming after me, but I'm ready now.
Well, so I was kind of afraid we were experiencing something like the Madden curse there. You know, you get on the cover, you come on the show, and your success goes downhill. So hopefully that's not the case. Let's pray it isn't.
Yeah, I actually just I lost the national championship recently and Yost, but it was a close one. The guy there really, he's got a solid squad, and I got a bunch of bums I strap together every year and try to do something. So
Well, you've got let me see, 5 national championships, 34 conference championships. You're spot on at 1,300 victories, and you've got a 780 winning percentage. So yeah, you're doing something right.
absolutely, I appreciate that. I try to actually play the best schools every year. So when I get to the playoffs and I see them again, it's usually a much different outcome. I mean, because when you I read the games a lot. The real key is reading into the actual game and reading like, oh, did he come out in a run all the time? Did he come out in a run first down? Sometimes I'll literally write down how many times he came out in a run and how many times he came out in the pass, and I'll get my percentages that way a lot of times, and I'm really more impressed with people that can recruit from California. I know I'm all over the place, but man, I took a team and from California and trying to recruit. I haven't even been able to fill, my scholarships with decent players every year so far. I mean, I've had a sim here and there. I'm really impressed with California teams.
Is that your Redlands team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that D2?
That's D3. And
D3. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Right. I try to stay in D2 and D3s. I didn't like AA as much. I like the money they give you for recruiting.
Oh, yeah.
And they give you a ton of money, but I just don't like the fact that D1 schools, the lower D1s can come down and pick your best players. I mean, D1 AA is a different beast in itself. It really is.
It absolutely is. I know we've had several players who relish being at D1 AA. They've got that knack and that patience that I don't have to wait
either.
Those players who are, favoring Alabama and Penn State and all those elites or all those other Conference 5 schools. And they have a knack for knowing who those coaches are actually going to sign and who they're using as backups. So they just hang on to their money and they wait until those coaches fill their class and then pounce on those recruits that everybody else has been shying away from because the big name schools have been on them. And that's something that I tried. I just can't do it. I don't have the patience. I don't have the temperament, I guess, for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's
now
definitely
go ahead.
Yeah, at D2, I mean, that's really where I feel like everything is really balanced and average. D1 too. D1's very balanced. But the recruiting for D2 is definitely the most balanced. That's where I thought I was a great recruiter.
Now at D2, I haven't experienced the D1 AA drop down as much as I have at D1 AA having the D1As drop down. Yes. And regardless of what school I'm at or what success I've had or what vision I've had, it just seems like at D2, they don't tend to mess with you as much. So you pretty much have a clear shot. You can set your strategy. You can develop your balance, your budget, if you will. And once you've developed that and found something that works, it tends to be the same year in and year out. But like you said, you go to a different region and it's like recruiting in a whole different world, not just because of the location, but how many coaches filter to that region because they know it's saturated. Which one has provided you? I know you said California. That's for D3. That's got to be crazy out there.
Yes, it is. And like at all of my recruits, and when I'm out there, are almost over 1,000. So everything's 1,000, and before you know it, you can chew up $30,000-$40,000, and still have just a bunch of yellows with sim schools. That's what happens to me. I think WIS needs to do something about how much I'm battling a simulation school for certain players, because some players, I've $10,000, when I'm fighting a sim, and it's crazy. It really has been. It's been tough. So I saw that you had the visions up for the new version. Is that what you had on before I showed up? I know I was a little late.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Now, I wouldn't say it's a new version. The vision that I had up was something that I had put together several human seasons ago. And when I had talked to Jay Conte, gosh, it's probably been 12, 13 years ago, maybe. So some of that information was back prior to the most recent. Well, actually, I think prior to the 2 most recent updates. But overall, there are different people that can determine whether their vision rises or falls by looking at their tight ends or their offensive linemen, for
Yes.
instance, and prior to the rollover, and kind of see, you know, did I get more players added or did some of them drop off, to gauge where their vision is. But the formula that I put up there really helps those people who are looking to see just how much of an improvement they've had, so that they can kind of gauge how many players are not seen by some of those also ran schools, because that affects your recruiting. You know, you have, especially
absolutely.
at D2 and D3, where you have that upper pool, and you may have 4 or 5 schools and coaches that can actually see players that the rest of the world can't see.
Can't see at all. Absolutely. And there's kind of a way that I've had to kind of actually see those people every year and go through that. So, but you have to have had a good season. If you make it to the top 4, you make it to the top 4 and you do your recruiting, and then that season passes on, your vision is still at top 4. So if you go out in the second round that year, you're still seeing top floor until you get your new money. So I will have all those players up, and then I'll go back and do my recruiting and see that they're not there, and I put them down at the bottom, you know, and then I'll know that, hey, this guy's going to sign this tight end I couldn't even see. I won't battle him so hard for this other tight end that he's on. You know, he's on 2 tight ends. I know he's not going to sign that one. I'll just sit back and try to get him, you know, stuff like that. So, I mean, I've had a way to kind of filter through the people that I can't see. I like to just see where they go. Because, you know, we all get a, you know, great season here or there, and we get to the national championship or something. That's what jumps your vision up tremendously. Or even winning the conference championship. If you win the conference championship, you are going to see the elite players. You know, the round 4 people are going to see more people than you, but you will see the elite players. So if you just do recruiting when you have that vision, you'll kind of get a gauge on who you're seeing, who you're not seeing. And, you know, because on the years I do bad, you know, on the years I don't go into the elite rounds, I kind of know that I'm going to be missing on all those great players. So I go for more core players that year, like offensive linemen and defensive linemen. You know, I go, you know, you know, you're not going to see that spectacular running back, but if you put really great offensive linemen in there with a mediocre running back, he'll still have great results, you know, stuff like that. There's ways to combat a bad, because I've gotten bad playoff draws too, you know, where I've been, you know, had to go against a number 1 seed that had a, you know, and in the second round, either me or this guy's going out, and, you know, stuff like that. A month or 2 of that, you know, you can turn your school around or you can turn it upside down.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? So the one thing I like about the current layout, or I should say the current format, is that, you know, you do get to see on the recruiting page, for instance, if you take just write down the top 5 players you can see before recruiting rolls over. If those 5 players are still there in every position, you know, your vision hasn't increased, but it's also not decreased. Now, on the flip side, if those, you know, if you can't see any of those, that means you had a sucky season, and you should have known that going into recruiting, not to expect to see those guys. But then on the positive side, you know, let's say that you write down the first 5 players on your recruiting sheet for a quarterback all the way through, let's just say defensive back. So you've got those positions. You've written down the 5 players at every position that are the top 5 based on your cores that you have set up. And now recruiting rolls over, and they're actually players, you know, 7, 8, 9, 12, where before they were 1 through 5. So now what that tells you is you have increased your vision, because now you're seeing players that were better than they were, and they are now visible to you when before they weren't. And one important thing that some people don't understand is recruits don't improve. You know, I had a gentleman ask me, he said, well, maybe the recruit improved or it just got better. No, recruits don't improve from during the season to when recruiting period is going on. They do not change their cores. They don't improve as their high school season goes on.
That's right.
And that was one of the questions. I said, no, matter of fact, when recruiting is over and the signings have occurred and you do a recruit search, those values will be the values when signing starts for the next recruiting season. So it's important to understand whether your vision has gone up or down, because the one mistake a lot of people make is they'll go through the season and start adding people to their watch list. because they're available to be added to their watch list for their particular division recruiting. Now the season rolls over and they're coming off a 1-12 season.
Right.
Their vision falls through the floor.
Down. Yes.
And now those players will still show up on their watch list, but unbeknownst to them, they won't show up in their recruiting list. So they're wasting money on these players by throwing money at them and wondering, why is this guy not accepting a home visit? Why is he not taking my campus visit? I can't get him to come to campus for nothing. Well, maybe if you do your recruit search again for that particular position for your division, you'll notice that he is no longer in your vision. He is too high for you to see because your team sucked that year. So take time. If you're running into that, double check. I just encourage everybody not to add players to your watch list during the season until it's over and you're about to do your recruiting rollover.
Until you have your new money. When you have your new money, you can do it. And another thing is a lot of times during recruiting, I'll have players that I can see they won't take any of my recruiting actions and they're undecided. Nobody's wanting them. You know, have you experienced that yet?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If you experience that, normally a home scouting visit from your head coach.
Head coach. Yep.
Yes. Your head coach scouting visit will make him accept another offer. So if you have an undecided player that you just can't, and a lot of times you can use your phone calls and your letters and stuff, and he'll tell you that he doesn't want to be far away from home or he doesn't want to be close to home. Sometimes there's a reason these kids aren't taking your calls if you can absolutely see them. And another thing I want to really see changed is I'm tired of after the player has been signed, I want to be able to see their potential. I want to be able to see what you signed and their potential. Is that asking too much?
No, you know, not for a lot of us coaches. No, I agree. Even if you haven't spent money on them or not, because let's face it, at that point, I mean, in the real world, God forbid we compare this to the real world, but in the real world,
don't you dare.
If a player signs with Alabama, you know, we don't need a drone hovering over the stadium to determine what his potential is. We can see him play at practice. We can see him play in the game. So why shouldn't it be that way? Now, I will say this. When we were working on that vision update and getting that done and getting those new 5 categories set up, and they actually rolled into the recruiting scenario, Sebel did mess up and make it to where you could see everybody's potential for about 3 days. And then somebody, whoever you are, ratted it out and told him, and he fixed it. I was like, oh, this is great. You know, I don't have to spend money to see. Now, granted, what value does it provide? None. It's not going to help me or hurt me in my game planning or anything like that. But gosh, it would be nice to know why that guy spent so much money on that player, even though I wasn't recruiting him, you know, and you know he did. If you've got 4 or 5 elites battling a guy, they're not just sitting there.
No,
they're throwing money at that guy every round.
That's right.
You know, you hear one of them say, yeah, I dropped, 42 home visits on the guy and 16 campus visits. And
I know.
And he didn't even sniff at me. You're thinking, how much money and how much recruiting effort did it take to get this guy? And why did it take that? Was he very high? Was he sky the limit?
Absolutely.
No, you're absolutely right. I'd love to see.
I would love to see that update. After he signed, just after he signed, I want to go look at your team. I should be able to see that. So I was kind of wondering myself, WIS just sent out that big, they need a developer and a promoter and, I think that they could, I don't think they need that. I think they need to just ask us more what we want to see. They've completely lost the younger person. I mean, I'm 33. I don't know any 25-year-olds that are playing management fantasy sport games, so to speak.
Right.
But I know who does. I know who knows who. Steam, the game playing thing. They keep a log on everybody who buys their management games and their simulation coaching games. You can buy these games where you can coach teams, just like we're doing. But But I think that they should just look into something like that to bring in some new people. I would like to see more new people to play against. I feel like I get beat up by the same big boys constantly.
Exactly.
With their old tricks that I can't seem to break. And I'm going to try some new things. I'm not going to reveal what I'm trying on this show. I'm going to come on a later date and reveal some things that I'm trying. But I'm trying. Right. I'm trying something that I think is going to be big. And I think it's what's been beating me the whole time. It's kind of like a stop me if you can offense, you know, and I think they figured out a way to do that right under everybody's nose. And I'm not going to reveal any huge secrets, but I think there's a maybe an attribute that everybody's getting a certain attribute real heavy that is making these teams, you know, elite, so to speak. And I'm gonna just focus on that, no matter if the recruit's terrible or not. You know, because I see. Go ahead. What are you saying?
So we'll look forward to that result when you get the data crunched and get all the numbers ready. Look forward to seeing how that works out.
Well, have you ever seen that some of these teams go after the top player, even though he's very low? I mean,
yes,
it's very repetitive, and you know, I keep losing to not that same team, but to these types of teams, and I think I figured out what's going on with it. You know,
well, at for instance, at D1A, Charles Brake was talking about on the original podcast that we were doing when this, that, and the other was still in podcast form. He was on the show, and he flat out said he doesn't give a rat about potential. And he doesn't care about work ethic when you're at D1A, because the majority of the guys are in that upper echelon that you're going to be able to sign anyway, and they're only going to improve so much. So he focuses more on getting the players with the best core attributes, regardless of their potential and regardless of their work ethic. So naturally, you know, if you get one of them top studs with a high work ethic and the sky's the limit,
of course, they're great. You know, but I think there's one core attribute that if you just get across the board, I think you can, just take on anybody. You know, I don't want to throw it out there because I don't know people countering me. I just
like last challenge.
Yes. Wow. But I think there's, something that we should all just be doing more collectively. And I think it'll help spread the wealth, so to speak.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to look at the new analyzer that EZ's son put out on the forum? There's a link for it. It's very similar to Yatzer's tool, not for recruiting, but just for game planning and game results and getting game breakdown as far as
no, actually I haven't. No, I mean
it's relatively interesting. I mean I shouldn't say relatively, it's very interesting. And it combines the map. So you've got the geography where you can see a coach and you can see the rings of distance for that coach. And then you can actually put in a recruit ID and see the rings of distance for that recruit ID and see what schools are in that proximity. So he's done a hell of a job. And that's something that I think, should be a WIS platform available option for us and available to everybody without having to do some type of hybrid add-on. So maybe these new programmers or these managers that they're advertising will do some of what you and I had talked about previously, and that is listen to the people on the forums and give them what they need.
I think they should take one of our top people and put him in charge. I mean, honestly, I think that somebody, I'm not going to name any names, but I think somebody should, they should bring in, somebody that, because, they definitely are looking for somebody with a passion for the game, but a passion for all the games. I don't really know if that's possible. You kind of got to break Sim and Dynasty up.
Yes.
Two different they're animals. Just absolutely. So, I would like to see a Dynasty hockey too. I'm not getting in there. I live in Tampa Bay, go Bolts, but, Dynasty hockey would be cool because there's a sim hockey. But I think, even somebody like you, what we want, what's flawed with the game, at least in Gridiron Dynasty, so to speak, and I think that, they're fishing for the wrong person. I'm glad they put it out there for us, though. I mean, I've been really happy with this newer engine. I still can't decide if pass is better than run or what. I really just can't.
And
I've had the top tier quarterbacks.
Did they do that intentionally? so that there is no more guaranteed pass is always going to get you a national championship versus back in the old days where you had the ND box and you just ran it to victory every game. That it could be something built into that program that is not necessarily a static attribute or a static qualifier where it says, run equals this type of exponential increase, pass is this type of exponential increase. I think it's a dynamic type of qualifier where maybe the system or the computer or the program can see that, hey, this guy's running all the time. So, maybe we should, provide him a few more fumbles, or this guy.
That's probably true. You're right.
Yeah, maybe he should get more interceptions than the normal. Who knows? I mean, who knows what kind of sneaky stuff is in there? Maybe they just wake up one day, roll the dice, and go, today all the passing teams lose.
I never know. I concur with that. Sometimes I just can't figure out the madness behind it.
Yeah, and that is in itself the underlying beauty of the game. It's not like remember the old Atari games. Once you had the secrets, you could figure it out and win, or the old Nintendo games. Once you had all the secrets, it was just repetitive, muscle memory. You did the same thing over and over and you won. That's not the case with What If Sports. It does not work that way.
No, because the teams I'm playing in Division III, they're passing it, but I'm getting there by running it. So it's just like, I don't know what to do, So
but you may be on that specific core, because there are some coaches out there. I'm not going to mention Jason Freeman's name, but there's some coaches.
I won't either. Wisconsin and Claire run all the time.
They're just amazing at. Honestly, I think they could reach in a toilet, pull out a handful of crap, and win a national championship. He is just.
I am with you.
He just has that specific touch. But yeah, I encourage you, man. Look at that link. It's on the forums. I can't remember. Let me see if I've got the forum up. I can tell you. Bear with me. I'm trying to remember what the actual title was. Announcing GD Analyst Companion Helper App for GD. It's the first. It's the first topic on the GD forum. And
how long ago was that? How long ago was that put on there?
That was like yesterday afternoon, I think.
Oh, okay. All right. That's why I haven't seen it.
Ed's boy. They coached together in a couple worlds. Let's see. What is the date time? Yeah, the 14th at 9:26 in the morning. So it's fresh. It's relatively new, and it's an amazing tool. He is to be commended. Young man. I say young man. Hell, he's Ed's son, who knows how old he is. he needs to get him a little PayPal link or something up there for donations, because it's going to be, once you figure it out, it's going to be an amazing tool, very similar to what Bob has provided us. So, if What If Sports can pay Bob, and
they should hire Bob. There you go. Yeah, there you go. And, listen, there you go. There you go.
We would be swimming in sweet gravy all day long if he was on there. I guarantee it.
We would. Well, I just feel like he has the passion, the love, the devotion already. I mean, look at the great site he's offered for a decade now to me, alone. Yeah. I don't know how long everybody else used it, but I have used it for a decade. And I'll be honest with you, this is going to sound extremely weird probably to say, but it's probably relative to everybody. I probably wouldn't have made it as far in What If Sports if I didn't have Bob's recruiting glory at the end.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I honestly, it's the drive every month. That's what I really wanted to look at, was where I placed on this recruiting sheet. So yeah, I have been landing on WISs a little bit too, but they don't ever supply anything. WIS is just so random. Oh, you did good or you didn't, And if you didn't do good, you don't know what you did.
Exactly. And a lot of it's based on the total rating, which we all know and have been talking about for a while. Yeah. It doesn't matter worth the crap. But, in Bob, with Gridiron Dynasty Reports, that GD report stuff, when I first saw it and actually began using it a couple of times, especially for recruiting, and I couldn't figure out why my great recruiting classes were 50, 60, 70. I'm like, I did better than that. Well, that tuned me into the fact that on the position roles, where you set your qualifiers or your quantities, your values for each of those cores,
Right.
If you jive them up with his exactly, then you're going to match up exactly with his results. But what a lot of coaches do is they vary those to their particular desires or needs or expectations. And like me, mine aren't spot on with his. There's some point differences for certain positions, but
Absolutely,
regardless,
mine too.
knowing that and going in knowing that, I can still gauge where I think my recruiting class should be based on his numbers, and they're relatively close each time out. So that kind of tells me that I've got that aspect dialed in. So now if I can just get my game planning and my playbook set up, because it seems like no matter what I do,
I know I fall apart in there.
Yeah, I know my Richmond team is beating the crap out of Sims all year long in Yost this year. And tonight, my conference mate, my conference mate in the same division, Cass, his Florida Atlantic team is just going to mop the floor with me. And, I've done everything I can. I don't know what else to do. I've sought help. I've implemented suggestions.
Oh, listen, I'm there right now. I'm there right now with Mojo Loud. Let me get a shout out to Mojo Loud and the GSC and Adobe. He has showed up and beat me bad. He has beat me every time we played and won a national championship on me.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Not just beat you, but rubbed it in your face.
Yes, he has beat me bad. So, and my Redlands team, that conference, shout out to them too. They're great. We're going to definitely pull it in big this year. So, I just go ahead.
Well, you've got your Division III team, your West Georgia. That's the one you were talking about just now. And, of course, Tufts over in Yost. So are you planning to add a fourth team to try?
So I am desperately trying to drop one of my teams because I feel like ever since I took on Yost and Bryant, my Georgia team has suffered and tremendously. I mean, I was almost 4 points ahead overall recruit rating in Georgia. And it's terrible because I still couldn't beat this guy, Kinsey. This guy, Kinsey from Humboldt. I don't know how he beats me. His team is kryptonite to mine. And every time we play, he just stomps me to death. I honestly pray in church on Sundays that somebody beats him in the playoffs so I don't have to face him.
Anybody but him.
Yes. I have some really good guys in that I wish we could all get together, all of us elite guys, and do a Division II or a Division III, because I feel like we're all spread out a lot, and maybe the best of us are just in Division I, and they don't ever come out of there. So like the Purdue teams in my league,
Could be.
Any word on when they're going to open up a new world? I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah. I know there was some talk with Sebel, I guess, probably almost 2 years ago. And right now, because of the, it's so sparse in every world that at one point they were actually talking of maybe some attrition, reducing the worlds to get more human interaction. But from a programmer's aspect, that's going to be simple because you just turn off a world. But from a customer aspect,
it's terrible.
How do you compensate these guys and ladies who have spent their money, their time, their effort to build a program up to the level that it is, only to be told, hey, in 30 days, we're shutting down? Do you put them in a different world with the exact same players? Well, now you're messing up the historical data for that world, because now there's players that weren't there as freshmen. They're seniors. So there's so many aspects to all of that can
I never thought of
screw
that.
up the coaches level. And you've got the coaches records. If you've got a coach in, let's say, Wilkinson, that's got 500 wins, and he's at the top of the list, and that's what he's been striving for, and that's what his goal is, and he's there. But the number 2 guy is 475, so he's nipping at his tail. And now you merge worlds, and here come a couple guys with 800, 700,
Right.
another 500 win.
Be terrible.
That's demoralizing to those guys that have been there. So there's all kind of issues and considerations, and of course concerns that go along with that. That would, I think, it would probably blow a big hole in what if sports if they were to do the reduction. So right now, I don't see them increasing the worlds just for that reason, that they've got enough people available or empty spots available.
Right, they do, but if you really look at these worlds, it's the same people.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah,
it's the
but
same
what's going to
100
happen
people.
next?
I don't know.
Yeah, I was there for I think when I'm trying to remember if it was Heisman. I can't remember exactly
when Yost started, or
Yost
Heisman, what?
And I think it was Yost, Dobie, and Heisman. I was there when all three of them stood up.
Me too.
And it was that mad scramble. And it was like the same guys who have the formula figured out, rose to the top, cream of the crop, all the way up. And you can look back at the historical data and see that, the same guys from these two or three worlds are in this one. And, it did bleed some of the other worlds or blend some of the other worlds' coaches into one world, but they still maintained their teams elsewhere in the other worlds. But now they were engaging face to face, so to speak, in the new worlds that opened up. And it did make it a little more competitive for a time. And then,
I sometimes just feel like the reason why we maybe get a new fish here and there, and then they just get completely stomped out constantly, and then they disappear,
Yeah.
I mean, I spent probably a good year before I really even made it to the playoffs. I mean, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't even know how I made it through that time.
The newcomers that are jumping in right now at D3, I can see them being demoralized just because the limited ability that an individual has to really truly manage his team at D3. When they make it to D2, it's like getting an adrenaline shot, and they rush to, oh my gosh, this is going to be great when I'm at Florida. And then they get up to D1A, and now they're like, well, what's it going to take for one of these guys to leave the elites? This is why I wanted to play. So
I understand completely. I'm with you. It's exactly the what if is facing right now on bringing people in. But I don't see them, they threw us all free games and stuff. I haven't heard of anything like that. I haven't seen anything, No. I mean, with COVID going on, you think that they would have really targeted more teams and stuff. You're inside more, you got more time.
More people are working from home and not doing work.
That's right. I forgot about that. I'm one of them people that got to go to work, but
man. So I'm looking forward to the day that, whoever this individual is, or this team of individuals to come in and breathe new life into the platform, really does a bang up job by scouring the forums and soliciting input and actually having some more of those Div chats, because that's what actually exchanges the ideas with the people who can fundamentally manipulate those ideas and massage those ideas to make them work for the grand total of what if sports community overall. So, there's nothing to be said for new blood coming on, but if it's just same old blood, why bother?
I agree, and I agree. I hope they land somebody that because I'm still genuinely excited about the game. I just feel like I feel like I'm on autopilot a ton of the time.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all. That's my only gripe. That's why in my non-conference I packed full of 5 humans, and then I'm on autopilot until playoffs. So.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of us. So it's not something that I look forward to. But then again, when you get busy and you've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams like some of these other coaches have, it's because of those autopilot teams that they're able to have that many, because they only have to massage 1 or 2, in a week's time frame.
Absolutely.
And they've got it figured out. So what the hell? Well, man, we're going to wrap this thing up. Any parting words before we go?
Nope. Just thanks for having me. And
you know it, brother. Anytime.
Absolutely.
And
the challenge is on.
And bad luck to Ole Miss this weekend. How about
they're not really my team. I'm more of an Alabama guy.
Well, best of luck to Saban. He gets healthy. And
Absolutely.
it doesn't affect the team, because I hate nothing more than an asterisk when teams win. Well,
I know. Yeah,
they
we
would
didn't
have
have our
won if
coach.
they,
Yeah.
they didn't have their coach and he was sick, and that's the reason. So, if we're going to get beat, let's get beat by the best, and if we're going to play, let's play with the best. So hopefully,
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And we're going to blow on out of here. And for everybody else who has been listening, tuning in, we appreciate you doing so. Come back and join us next week. We plan to have Ed's son on to tell us a little bit more about his GD advantage. So until that time, y'all keep winning. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Magic. Take care, buddy.